Hello and welcome to Arirang Newsbreak on this Wednesday, April 13th, Election Day here in Korea. After a 2-week-long campaign period, D-Day is finally here, and many Koreans have already cast their ballots in more than 13,000 polling stations across the nation. Each and every single vote will be crucial in deciding Korea's future, as the 300 incoming lawmakers will form the 20th National Assembly, which has several daunting political, diplomatic, and economic tasks ahead. And it goes without saying the results will also reshape the landscape of Korea's next presidential election set for the end of next year. Now, without further ado, let's get started with our Kwon Jang-ho, who's at the National Election Commission, keeping track of the latest turnout numbers around the country. Jang-ho, what's the latest?
Yes, good afternoon, Dan. Turnout this morning started off slow, but as expected, once the early voting numbers were included at 1 p.m., the numbers jumped up considerably. As of 2 p.m. today, turnout was 42.3%, which is now over 5 percentage points higher than at the same time 4 years ago. It shows how many people took to the choice of early voting, which took place for the first time for a general election last week. The numbers are now on course to reach 60%, roughly 5% higher than 2012. This is on par with the pre-election surveys that predicted a higher turnout. Those surveys conducted by the National Election Commission also showed that younger voters were also getting involved far more this year. When asked how likely they were to vote, 55% of those in their 20s answered very likely, up 20% compared to 2012. Polling stations nationwide will close at 6 p.m, but an official turnout count will not be announced till 2 a.m. Early results from individual districts are expected to come in at around 10 p.m, but winners from hotly contested races are not likely to be announced until the morning. Back to you, Dan.
Thank you for that, Jang-ho. It's good to see many people exercising their right to vote. And it's quite impressive how many more young people are showing interest in politics. Now, we have just under 3 hours left until the polls close for this year's election. Let's now go over to a polling station in southern Seoul, where Oh Soo-young is standing by. Soo-young, how are things looking there?
Hello, Tan. I'm at a polling station in Seocho-gu district. It's been 9 hours since polls opened, and there's less than 3 left to go until the final ballots have been casted. The turnout rate so far for Seocho-gu's A and B districts is 40.6% as of 2 p.m. That's 5.5 percentage points higher than the last general election 4 years ago. With more than 360,000 eligible voters, Seocho-gu district accounts for roughly 4.3% of Seoul's electorate. Let's see what some of the voters here had to say.
I think the biggest issues are the economy and welfare. I hope politicians come up with solid, long-term solutions.
Employment rate is also a very important thing in Korea. We should increase our employment rate.
The domestic economy must be revitalized to create jobs for young people. There are also security issues to be dealt with.
Seocho-gu, along with Gangnam-gu and Songpa-gu, make up the so-called Gangnam 3 districts, the most affluent parts of the capital. The three are steady conservative strongholds, tending to lean towards the ruling Saenuri Party. In the 2012 general election, the ruling party won all 7 seats allocated to the regional bloc. There are more than 8.4 million eligible voters in Seoul across its 49 electoral districts. In 2012, the turnout recorded 55.5%. Now, we still have 3 hours ahead of us before the polls close, so we have to wait and see how many more voters come by. Back to you, Tan.
It appears the current economic woes are weighing heavily on Korean citizens as they vote in this election. The economy seems to be their biggest concern. Thank you, Soo-young, for that. Keep us posted throughout the day. Now we're going to connect to our political correspondent standing by at each of the main parties' headquarters. For the sake of fairness, we're going to take the parties in order of how many seats they held in the outgoing assembly. So first up, we go to our Park Ji-won, who's at the ruling Saenuri Party's headquarters at the National Assembly in Yeouido, Seoul. Siwon, how's everything there?
Hello, down. The ruling Saenuri Party's headquarters are still pretty quiet at the moment. Only a lot of journalists and cameramen are gathering here, but obviously there's some strong tension in the air with the voting underway. The ruling Conservative Party's main political goal in this election is to retain its parliamentary majority in the 300-seat assembly, but the predictions about the likelihood of that have varied greatly. Some experts say they expect the party to win over 160 seats, while others say it will be more like 140, according to expert analysis based on polling results in dozens of highly contested districts nationwide. Another concern for the party is whether President Park Geun-hye's hometown of Daegu, the Conservative Party's traditional stronghold, will continue to support the party in the midst of a rather turbulent candidate nomination process. Party leader Kim Moo-sung voted in Junggu Yeongdo-gu district in southern port city of Busan early in the morning, and he will be arriving here sometime after 6 p.m. to watch the results coming in with some of the candidates. And we will have the final election coming in early, either later tonight or early tomorrow. And until then, we will keep you updated throughout the day. Back to you, Dawn.
Whether the ruling Saenuri Party will be able to retain its majority will determine the fate of the president's policy initiative, so all eyes are definitely set on that. Let's wait and see how the results unfold. Thank you, Jiwon, for that. We now go over to our Shin Se-min, who is joining us from the main opposition Minjoo Party of Korea's election headquarters at the National Assembly. There's still a long day and night ahead of everyone. Se-min, what's the atmosphere there like?
Hello, down here at the headquarters of the Minjoo Party of Korea, which they've set up here at the National Assembly in Yeouido. We're not seeing much of a difference compared to a couple of hours ago, but I was able to see some of the party-related personnel walking in and out of the election base as they prepare for that big moment when all party members gather around in the evening to watch the election results unfold. But first, here's just an overview of what the party's trying to get out of from the 20th parliamentary election. Unlike the party's initial goal of securing 107 seats in the 300-seat National Assembly, the most recent polls conducted and released last week show that the party is likely to secure a little less than 100. The major political parties, including the country's largest bilateral camp are aiming to do well in this whole metropolitan region, as a total of 122 seats, or nearly half of all the electoral districts, are up for grabs in and around the capital. The Minjoo Party of Korea hopes to sweep the Honam region in Korea's southwest, long known as a hotbed of support for the party. But that region has been become a hotly contested battleground for two of the opposition parties, the Minjoo Party of Korea and the Splinter People's Party. So we'll have to keep an eye on it and see how it all pans out. Taon?
All right, Simon, thank you for that. It'll be interesting to see how much support the people of Jeollado province, the traditional liberal stronghold, will throw to the Minjoo Party of Korea. As you know, the opposition parties failed to form a coalition, so it's really hard to predict the outcome for the opposition parties in this year's election. Now, last but not least, we connect to our Ji Myung-gil, who is standing by at the minor opposition People's Party headquarters in Seoul. Myung-gil, what do you have for us?
Hello, Dawn. Officials will be stopping by later in the day as election results start rolling in. But there's not a lot of activity going on right now. The party's co-leader An Cheol-soo is expected to be here sometime before the poll ends at 6 p.m., while co-leader Chun Jong-bae will be rallying with his party candidates at the party's Gwangju office. Now, the party is hoping to secure between 35 and 40 parliamentary seats today. They hope to win 20 seats in the liberal stronghold of Jeollado province, 10 proportional representative seats, and 5 seats in and around Seoul. The party currently has 20 seats, the minimum number required to form a parliamentary negotiation bloc. The party says that although they might not see a large number of members elected in individual districts, they're still hoping to receive voter support for the party. As you may know, voters in Korea get 2 ballots, one listing district candidates and the other for a political party. The number of votes a party wins determines the number of proportional representatives the party gets. Observers say voters like will likely split their votes by voting for one party for district representatives and give proportional representation vote to another party. Back to you, Taeun.
Thank you, Minjoo, for that. All eyes are on whether the co-leader of People's Party, An Cheol-soo, will be able to make the changes he has been promoting all along. And thank you to all the reporters who brought us the latest updates on the general election. Must be hectic out there for all of you, but do keep us posted on the newest numbers as they come. Well, that's all for this election special edition of Arirang Newsbreak. Stick around for more election updates throughout the afternoon. More in-depth election news coming up at 6 p.m. Korea time.